Welcome to 101. I'm Greg Bassey, your host from the Salisbury Independent newspaper. It's a big day here at PAC 14, the biggest. We've got the boss in the house, Julie Giordano. Welcome, Julie.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
You're the Wicomico County Executive. You run our county government, and you just finished your first budget. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. It was a task in itself, a couple months.
So what's in it? What are the highlights of this budget?
Oh gosh, there's a lot in it. Well, just to kind of give a little bit of background. So it passed with 5-2, and what that taught me was that you will never please everyone because of the two. They were opposite ends of the spectrum as to why they voted against it, but it ended up passing, so that was good. We have an increase in public safety, and that goes with our fire departments and our sheriff's office, which we think was desperately needed. We were able to increase the library funding 10%, which was good.
Which has not happened in a long time. So congratulations on that, for even thinking about the library.
No, thank you. Seth was such a great advocate, Seth Hirschberger. So he is such an advocate for the library, and we are so grateful to have him. But I don't know if it was a good thing or a bad thing. He said to me, yes, we're at the point in time where we were in like 2005 or something. And I was like, oh, this is so sad that I was able to get you to where the numbers were in 2005 before the cut was made. I think that was I can't remember what the exact year was, but still have some work to do there. But yeah, so we were able to do a 10% increase there. And school, so we went above maintenance of effort, literally the most controversial topic throughout the county, which was kind of interesting. And what was nice, though, we were able to give our employees a 6% raise. And due to the revenue cap, I won't claim this one, but we were able to lower property taxes. So that's always a good thing.
So let's pick apart part of that stuff. So certainly with the revenue cap, I know you're in favor of the revenue cap, but now that you're seeing the effect on the county, has it changed your thinking at all on the revenue cap?
I think positives and negatives on both. I think there are a lot of people that feel the government gets enough money, so the revenue cap sort of protects them from that. But also being on the business aspect of it, it does make it very difficult. When assets are, higher than what they are, if they're up 10% and we can only raise 2%, it does hurt the county. So, for example, we had to lower the tax rate due to the revenue cap, so it went from 90 cents to 88. That cost us about $2 million. So if we were able to keep the tax rate, we would have been an additional $2 million. So yes, I see the positives of it. I see the negatives of it. I also see, it makes me kind of question, is that really what they meant to do? Or did they mean to do the tax rate cap? Could that be something that we replace with? So we're looking at all different aspects, and I have a lot of people chirping in my ear on one side and a lot of people chirping on my ear at the other. But for right now, we're okay. It was a balanced budget, and like I said, we are able to lower property taxes this year. So I know that citizens will be happy about that. But I know that there are some efforts to potentially, switch them out. So we'll see what happens. I mean, it would definitely be something that would have to be, I would assume, a ballot initiative. I don't know if there would be those votes on the council, but potentially. So we'll see what happens for the future of it.
So school spending, I don't know if people understand this, maintenance of effort, the state has a complicated formula that says this is how much a county should spend on education, just so people don't cut education to balance their budgets.
Right.
We've always sort of been around maintenance of effort or just a little bit above maintenance of effort county. You tried to go above by about $1 million. Council cut that back to about $800,000.
Mm-hmm. So we went above 1.3. I met with the superintendent and his team, and they were very adamant about school safety. Increasing the SRO presence in our schools, in our elementary schools, which I'm a big proponent of. But they're hurting. With the rising cost of inflation, things cost more. So I think that they presented a really good argument. It was one of those things that if we weren't able to do it, I talked to the finance person. I talked to Pam Oland, and she said, we're able to do this. And so coming from the education world, I understood that. And so we presented the 1.3. We were able to do so. And yeah, the council cut it back to 800,000. So you had a lot of angry people on both ends. You had people saying we shouldn't have given $1 over it. We have failing schools. We should not be, promoting any more of that. But then you have people on the other hand, we have failing schools because we don't fund it. So you have both ends of the spectrum. I'm hoping, though, that the teachers, I say union reps, the association was there. There were a lot of parents that were there, that they see it as a win, though, because we were still able to go above maintenance of effort at 800,000. So I talked to Dr. Stauffer. He was very happy about it. We'll be able to fund the SROs, which was a big, push for that. So, yeah, but it was a very controversial topic. So.
So, not to ask you to speak on behalf of the council, but what were their concerns? Why did they cut it?
I think they cut it because you had, just some people concerned of it being, $1.3 million over. I think with a 5-2 Republican council, I think that Republicanism like kicked in and saying, hey, we've got to be fiscally responsible. And is this fiscally responsible? There was some back and forth talk. I'll be honest with you, I wasn't in on that budget meeting. I actually had a doctor's appointment that day, but when I looked back on it, there was some kind of going back and forth. They thought about $1 million. Councilman Hastings was very adamant about, no, we're not cutting anything of it. Long story short, but then it ended up at 800. So it was just kind of back and forth. So I think they understood why we needed to go over, and how can anybody argue school safety and inflation? Everybody's hurting. So, I thought that they were very valid points, and I think that they recognize that. So I think they kind of were trying to be the happy medium and giving over what they needed, but also being fiscally responsible in their eyes.
Now, hiring and retention has been very important to you. It's one of the big goals you've been working on, and you were able to secure a big pay raise for the county employees.
Yeah, 6%. So it was kind of nice. So the cuts that they made were not just there. They cut a LOSA program from the fire departments, which a lot of people were outraged about. But what they didn't realize is that the fire departments were actually in favor of this, because we want to work on a property tax credit for them. That's something that they feel would help with retention. So that $400,000 was pulled, and along with the Tri-County Council, which was a grant matching thing that all 3 counties had to participate in, and Somerset wasn't willing to do so. So they weren't going to get that funding anyway. So that got cut. But instead of just absorbing it back into the general fund, we were able to kind of come to a consensus. And instead of doing a 3% raise, we did a 6% raise, which was really nice. I heard from the sheriff's office for their civilian side that was a big help, and it helped retain quite a few. So, they're very happy about that.
And they have been in negotiations with the sheriff's office. That contract is up. Where does that stand right now?
So for the CBA, so we actually, on the 6th, it was a big day. So not only did we make the changes not only did they pass the budget, but we also made some changes to the collective bargaining agreement with some language that had caused some lawsuits and things like that. So we were able to finally kind of put that to rest and change that language for the next year. That contract negotiation, though, for the next collective bargaining agreement will start in 6 months. So I get a little bit of a break from the sheriff's office a little bit. So since I've been in office, just kind of working hard for raises, for them, working with the sheriff and his command staff, for those raises, and then fixing the language for the accidental disability.
And someone in some governments, someone who knows a lot about local government says that's like a really closely watched negotiation, because it will set the pay rates for all the little town police officers as well, because they end up being a feeder system to the county to the Wicomico County. So that puts pressure on you, really. The others are all watching.
Yeah, it does. And, it was kind of interesting. I think in the past when they've done the CBA, it's been a very formal, lawyers only kind of speaking back and forth. And I feel really confident. I have a very good working relationship with the FOP and the FOP president and representatives. And I'm kind of hoping that we're able to sort of sit around the table and not do this back and forth in formal council chambers, and being able to work together to come up with something. And I really don't see a lot of changes happening. I think there's a couple things that they, have been wanting, and willing to kind of negotiate for. But other than that, I don't think there's going to be too many changes.
No, this is an unfair question. I apologize, but
that's okay.
There are some people who say your relationship with the FOP is too close.
Yeah, they do to a fault. It's kind of funny. So it's I think the fact that I back the blue, so to speak, I don't think is any shocking. It's not a shocker to anybody. But they do. My ladies in the office say it's to a fault. There's more people in this county than the FOP, than the sheriff's office. So, but it is what it is. And I told them once the lawsuits were settled, and once we were able to kind of fix that accidental disability, my focus can kind of shift, and making sure that we're looking at things holistically. So that's what I told the sheriff's office. I said, into the FOP, I was like, you're not allowed to call me until the CBA. I got enough things going on. But yeah, I mean, and I've heard that before. So I've been trying to kind of move away from that and making sure to look at everything holistically. But you are correct. So it is a fault of mine.
How are things going on with the open positions? Are you able to fill some of these positions?
Yeah, so we had, we just pulled some numbers the other day. We had a 43% increase in filling, your positions, and we still have turnover. There are just some departments that are going to have turnover. Corrections has turnover, roads has turnover, solid waste. Those type of things are tough positions. But we're working really hard in trying to figure out ways to make sure to make our jail the best place to work, or to make our roads the best department to work. So just working with that. We still have Heather Langford right now kind of heading up Public Works, which is a huge undertaking, especially with us, with the sanitary bill getting passed and her going to be absorbing pieces of that. So it's definitely a big undertaking. And we have a new warden. So Chris Tyler, she's been amazing, coming in. And I think it was the change that needed to happen. And so I'm very happy with that. So she's working, getting into her own element as to what she sees in the jail. So I think that we're working towards that. But yeah, so far so good. I mean, we're trying to get those positions filled. So
had you ever toured the detention center before you were county executive?
Yes, I have. And I actually try to go over there at least once a month. So we've implemented an Employee of the Month program, which sounds cliche, but actually it has really helped boost morale. And it really gets me out in the community because I go and deliver the certificates and meet the people and talk to them and, kind of give my, appreciation and congratulations to them. So I'm over there at least once a month. But yes, I did tour it. And it's kind of crazy. Mike Dunn and I were actually just talking about this, where he took a group of individuals around, and it was a very real, very raw experience for them. And I think my experience was a little bit more guarded. I think that they were trying to not scare me away, I guess. But it's a hard place to work, And so I give anybody who works over there all the credit in the world, because it is a place that I think sometimes that we forget, and we're really hoping that they know that we don't forget them and we appreciate everything that they do over there.
Yeah, it's an amazing operation. It really is.
It is.
So, on purpose, so few people know what goes on in there. Mm-hmm. But boy, it's just a hard place.
It is. It's a very hard place. So we give them all the credit in the world and really try as much as we can to show our appreciation for everything that they do.
Sheriff's Office is getting a new building. How's that going?
It's going well. So we just got an update from Todd Richardson. So he's the major. He is kind of taken, I think, kind of the lead point on that as being sort of the liaison, making sure that everything's kind of staying on track and watching the building go up, which is important, when it comes to the fundamental and the operational piece of it. So he filled us in. It looks like it was supposed to be around February, but we know delays happen. So we're probably looking at a spring, probably early summer opening. I know they're very excited about, going over there. So I think the deputies are excited too. I mean, but most of them, they're either working out of their cars or the courthouse or the schools. So, but I think that they'll be, I mean, a new building is needed. So.
You had a nice event just a couple weeks ago with the Pickleball Courts opening at Harmon Field.
Very exciting. It was very exciting. I have never played. I've been challenged a couple of times, but I didn't want to look foolish, especially at the opening day. I don't think I've realized how into our community is with pickleball. It was crazy. So many people there. Have you ever played?
I have, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I don't know what I was expecting. I don't know if I thought it was a tennis ball or whatever. It's like its own thing and everything. But it was a very cool event. It was very neat. My son was there with me, so we got to do the ribbon cutting together. So that was a very cool thing for him. But yeah, it was great. It was great seeing so many community members out there. And I've driven past there numerous times, and the basketball courts are filled and the playground is being utilized and the courts are filled. So, and that's what it was about. So it's a very good community thing that we have now.
And the partnership with the YMCA is really important.
It was. And the thing is that it's going to be a great economic development aspect of the county, because we can have regional tournaments here now. We talked about, having different state tournaments and things like that, just to, get people, to Wicomico County. So, and having that court, is going to be, make it possible. So
you had a column in our paper recently, and I think I mishandled it. What I should have done is when you sent the letter, I should have made a story out of it and called and said, what are you talking about here? What's going on? Because I knew what was going on, but I don't know that the readers know what was going on. So let's go through that if we can. This was about the idea of questionable books within the school system, and you just wanted to point out that there's a process to deal with this. So talk about this to me.
So I was I was sent an email by a constituent that it feels very passionate about the sexually explicit books in schools. And I think it's a good thing to be passionate about. We obviously don't want that in our school system. And what he said was that I don't want to misquote it, but it was, my silence is consent. And I hated that. I hated that because I feel like there are some things that, from the executive standpoint that you do sort of, silence isn't really the right word, but you try to stay in your lane on certain things. And this was one of those that I felt that because I knew the process was in place, that I thought, okay, there's a process, let's see what happens. So I contacted the superintendent and kind of told him where I stood with it, asked him his opinion on me doing this letter, what were his thoughts, and I wanted to make sure that I had my facts straight, because I think a lot of times when there's a hot topic like this, I think when people have partial information, it makes it very dangerous. And so with this in particular, I wanted the public to know where I stood and where my administration stands. And I think that every parent and guardian stands where they don't want sexually explicit materials in the hands of their, kindergartners, kids in school in general. And I wanted people to be aware of the process. What frustrated me was that when I talked to the superintendent and I said, how many books have gone through this process? And the answer was 0.
Right.
That's very frustrating because to me, you don't really have a leg to stand on. You can yell and scream all you want, but how about let's take it through this process. If the process isn't good, then let's change the process. Let's figure out a mechanism. So, I'm a very solution-oriented person. So I'm okay to bring me a problem, but let's figure out a solution. We don't want to just sit here and complain because that doesn't get anything done. So that's kind of where I stood. So my point in the letter and sending it out to everyone was, I understand that this is an issue. This is a concern of parents. I'm right there with you. I'm a parent myself. I don't want that type of, those books in front of my child, but there is a process to follow. So it was almost like you need to help us, because if you come across something, let us know. And that way it can, the attention can be put on it to really look and analyze it. So
right, just tell us what the inappropriate book is and we'll look at it, but then there's no answer.
Right, exactly. And so that's the thing, is that no books have been through the process. So I couldn't tell you if the process is successful or not, because we just haven't seen that yet. So I'm hoping that those parents that maybe found something that was questionable or, didn't like the way that the teacher handled something in putting something in front of a kid, that they'll use that process. And I've had it, being a teacher, I've had people question it. And it was on it was on The Devil and Tom Walker, which is a standard literary tale by Washington Irving.
A very important book that everyone should read.
Yeah, but there were a lot of people that were concerned that the devil was a character.
Right.
And I explained he is the antagonist in the story. The whole theme is to not listen to the devil. You don't want to go down that route. But they were not happy that the child was reading it. And so I ended up giving an alternative text. It was a very quick and easy solution. So I think that most of the time it can be handled at the school level, but there is a process in place that can take it all the way up to the Board of Education. And I'm very adamant about, let's follow the process and let's see if the process works. And if it doesn't, then that's a whole nother issue.
And this happens to me all the time. People say, I wish they weren't teaching critical race theory. And I'll say, what are you talking about? I don't know that they are teaching. Cite, an example of critical race theory that's being taught, and then no one has an answer. Mm-hmm. So it ends up being kind of this gossip chain thing on, well, they've got all these sexually explicit books. Well, which books are the problem? So, someone just has to identify these things and the system will take care of it.
Yeah, I think when it comes to critical race theory, when I was running, that was a very hot topic. You had everything kind of going on in Virginia at the time with the governor's race. And then, of course, in our governor's race, that was one thing that the Republican candidate was kind of pushing, with things in school. One thing is, they tried to make that correlation between critical race theory and social emotional learning. And there is social emotional learning things going on at school. And so it's really, where is that connection between the two? So is CRT SEL and is SEL CRT? And so there was a lot of that debate. So academic wise, I didn't see it, but I started to see SEL in different parts of it. And so then I started to question, is SEL really the appropriate thing for teachers to be teaching? Because there were a lot of things that seemed more of a parental aspect should be kind of teaching that, as opposed to an educator. So that's kind of, I think, where that questionable part came in.
Yeah, and you talk about staying in your lane. I mean, I think there were a lot of people who thought, okay, she's going to try to interfere with the school board. Mm-hmm. But in your letter, you made clear this is an elected school board. Mm-hmm. If you got a problem, go to them. Mm-hmm. If I need to get involved, I will. But you're going to stay in your lane.
Yeah, I think I kind of said that from the beginning. I want to be involved in the schools, and I told this to Dr. Stauffer. I said, I want to be, at a graduation. I want to be, whether it's Teacher of the Year banquet, or I want to be, because that's part of our county, and you are an entity under Wicomico County in general, and it's a big piece of what I do. So there have been a lot of times where I have really tried, the Beaver Run dedication. I was there, and what else? They just built the new house. The CTE program at Parkside built the house, and they're getting ready to put that, kind of moving it into place, which is really exciting. So still wanting to be a piece of that, because education, it runs through my blood. I miss it. I knew, Bennett was having their graduation. I wasn't able to go, and it kind of, it made me sad a little bit that piece of my life is, whether, I don't know if the door's closed, but it's put on hold for right now. So, but yeah, I definitely want to be a part of it, but I'm also, he was chosen for a reason, and there's an elected school board, and so there is a process to follow. And like you said, I'll intervene where I need to, but for the most part, I think I have enough to worry about on my own. So, if they need me, I'm there, and I'll be a support mechanism, and I'll kind of give my 2 cents. But yeah, I have enough to worry about, I think.
So when you go to bed at night, right before you fall asleep, what are the things that you're thinking about, that you're worrying about?
Oh my gosh. Well, it's, what meetings do I have the next day, first and foremost. We just have a lot going on. We've got some issues at the landfill going on right now, water and sewer implementation. What are the next steps with that? We've got people complaining right now that they don't feel safe at the library. So is there a relocation potentially, for the library? There's a lot of things, and so you're juggling so many different things, and you have to put on so many different hats, but you try to figure out, okay, how am I going to handle this, or how am I going to tackle this? So, yeah.
Is the Ward Museum a possible destination for the library?
It's one of those things. It's been brought to my attention. I think that's a very still controversial topic. I'm not sure where that lies. I know it has been brought to my attention several times that the library would be a good fit for that. I think so too. In my mind, I see it as still being able to keep all the educational programs. The library could partner with the Ward Foundation. I would love to see, a big display of the ducks, kind of rotating in and out in the library. I think that it's a very good fit. I know that Dr. Stauffer has talked about potentially doing some sort of artsy type program there, art education program there. So I know the space will not go vacant for long, as long as it's made available. So I'm sure that, we will, somebody will be in there. So.
What's going on at the landfill that you're concerned about?
Well, we brought Wayne Strasberg back. This poor man. I don't think he can retire.
I heard that he came back. I was going to ask what for. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we brought him back for 2 specific things. The first thing was fire service, and not just the agreement with the city, which I know I mentioned to you earlier.
We'll talk about that at the end.
In a second. Yeah. So, but the fire service, but also the potential of where our lifespan is for that. Where are we looking? We have a lot of people saying we need to look at fire. The EMS and paramedic side. Does the county need to, kind of go in that direction? What's happening with volunteer firemen? So just kind of looking at that. And then the other piece was the landfill. So potential, lifespan, how much longer do we have if we have to expand the direction that we're going, and that kind of stuff. So he's kind of looking at that.
Now we've got one more cell we can tap.
So we have 3. So 10 is about to be finished,
okay.
And that should be finished literally within days. And then we have 8 and we have 7. The problem is with 8 and 7, and what we're starting to potentially see, there could be potential trash underneath 8 because of old landfill use. There could be concrete under 7. So, and we're really trying to figure out how long that's going to give us. And so that's kind of where we are right now. So we have contracted with MES to really give us that. I'll be honest with you, I don't know coming in, I think I was so removed from solid waste because I don't think I should have known solid waste at that point in time, but I feel like I was kind of giving, I was really relying on sources to let me know what was going on, and I don't know how valid they were. So we have MES coming in and kind of saying, okay, this is where we are, and these are the regulations, and these are the things. Whether we like the regulations or not, this is what we have to follow, and it's a hot topic. So yeah. So
and the residents don't want any expansion at all.
They don't, and it's like, okay, well, what are we going to do with this? And you have, and this is so getting into the weeds, but you've got people saying, well, we need housing development, we need to expand water and sewer, we need to do this. Well, that creates trash, that creates more and more. So it's like we have to have a place to put this. So, I've looked at different models in different counties. Montgomery County, Baltimore City, they do incineration, with a lot of filtration systems and things like that. So is that an option? So that's what we have Wayne in to do is to really look at that. And he's been around for such a long time that he's very familiar with what's been going on out there. So
and recycling is critical.
Yes. Recycling is critical, but it's hard too because, we have these convenience centers all around, and people don't utilize them correctly. There's
right.
trash everywhere, and it causes such an issue. And we are actually looking to potentially minimize the amount of convenience centers that we have because of that. We have 17 around the county, and I think in 3 different counties there's like 8 total. So
right.
we have a lot. We have a lot, and so it makes it very difficult for us to keep up with that. So, but yeah, we're looking at a lot of different things. So.
All right, let's make some news.
Okay.
This morning you had a fire services agreement signed,
Yes,
or agreed to with the city of Salisbury.
Yes. So it was very exciting. Literally, the ink might still be drying at this point in time. So I had City Manager Andy Kitzrow send me a text this morning. Hey, did you have a chance to sign it? And I said, actually, we did. So we were able to sign that, which is nice. A lot of people don't understand our fire service agreement. When you sign an agreement, it's typically a futuristic thing. For us, the fire service agreement is in the past. It's already happened.
Right.
So that makes it very difficult when it comes to money. And we just paid money for 2021. The money that we budgeted this year is for 2022. For 2023, it's not over yet. So we do a calendar year when it comes to the fire service agreement. And of course, we run on a fiscal year. So we'll find out what that cost will be at the end of December. So yes, we were able to work hard. And that's another thing we're working on is our relationship with the city. So Andy and I try to, Andy or Bunky and Jack or whoever, we try to meet up with the city at least once a week to figure out what's going on with them. And I tease them all the time. I'm like, do you have any more bad ideas that you're going to do? You know, I tease them all the time. But we actually have worked out a really good, I think, working relationship. And whether we agree or disagree, you know, we know that we need to work together. And so, you know, we'll see how that goes moving forward. But right now it's been very good. So
for people who don't know, when the city answers a call in the county to county residents, they're going to get a fee.
Correct.
The county's going to pay them a fee for showing up.
Yes.
So is it more than the current fee, or from the last agreement? We're like, how much money?
Yeah. So the additional funds. So the way that kind of worked was we paid in 2021. It was like $767,000. Paid that. This year, the amount of calls were about 906,000, and then we ended up giving them the full $1 million for capital
right.
costs. And so what they ended up doing was what they felt was that the cost or the amount per call was not enough to cover their capital cost,
right.
and so they kind of came up with a new fee. So it's a little bit of a little bit of an increase, $228, I think, increase on some things. So it'll be a little bit more substantial, but I understand that they have, you know, a raise in costs and things like that. And I think it was just a miscommunication. I'm like, just give me a number, and they're like, well, we have this, this, and this. I'm like, right, but just give me a number. Give me the number. Like, we still have to do the per call
right.
because that's tangible for
right.
us. I can't. It's very difficult for me to say, okay, well, I'm just going to write you a check based on this is the number that you said. So I was like, we have to do the per call basis. I have to have some sort of itemized thing, you know, to go off of. And so that's what we were able to come up with. So yeah, just having that open communication. Go figure. You go and talk to someone and you can figure things out.
Well, you know, it was never said exactly, but it was sort of implied that the city was having a budget problem here in their last recent budget development. Mm-hmm. And they were like, well, if the county was just giving us what they should be giving for the fire services, we wouldn't be having this problem. But it was more complicated than that.
It was way more complicated than that. And if that was, you know, if we were their scapegoat for a little bit, that's fine.
They never directly said it, but it was implied.
It was definitely implied that the county wasn't paying what they needed to. And of course, we got a lot of phone calls on that. Why aren't you paying what you're supposed to pay? And, you know, you had people saying we haven't paid anything. And it's like, wait a minute, we've budgeted $1 million for them, you know. Right. So I think that there was just some frustration. And I think that, but once we got those differences worked out, I think it's fine. So I don't know what the answer is. I'm not sure what was inherited. You know, I'm not sure what Jack and Andy are facing on a daily basis. But it did seem like there was a little bit of a panic mode. This is just from my perception. I'm not saying that it was. But I think now that they're both kind of in the flow of things, I think things have kind of calmed down. I think they were, you know, they're thrown into a situation very similar. I mean, wanting to do it, but I think they're kind of thrown into a situation and they're kind of picking up things that, you know, Jake and Julia had, you know, either started and they needed to complete or tie up loose ends and things like that. So I think that they were handed just I don't want to say mess because it's not a mess, but I think that they were handed things that they just had to work through and figure out their flow of things. So,
sure.
Yeah.
How can people get a hold of our county executive?
Oh, well, they can obviously go right online, but email is probably the best way. It's jgiordano@wicomicocounty.org. Or you can always call the office. We're like the switchboard up there. So 548-4801.
And you're at every event.
I try to be.
So if people just go to an event, they're going to run into you and have a chance to talk to you directly.
I try to be out in the public. But that's the fun part of the job. You know, you get to go out and see people in different aspects, whether it's a builder or fire department or, you know, whatever it may be, whatever fundraiser. So.
Are you having fun?
Yes, the operational part, absolutely. Yes, I'm having a great time. I love the job. I love trying to figure out better ways, for our citizens to, love Wicomico County. So yeah, absolutely.
She's Julie Giordano. She's our county executive, and we're thrilled she had time to be with us here today. Thanks so much for coming by.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
I'm Greg Bassett from the Salisbury Independent newspaper. Another edition of 101 right here on PAC 14.
First Shore Federal is proud to support PAC 14 and one-on-one. We'd encourage every business to support PAC 14 and pick a program and support it, and let's make a difference.